Welcome to the Damn Strong podcast. I'm your host, Bree, and I'm a full-time online fitness coach, and my passion is to educate women on all things fitness. I help women just like you step into the power of knowledge and commitment to ultimately live your best and strongest life. In this podcast, we'll talk about being damn strong in our body, mind, and life. I'll be teaching you how to navigate nutrition, strength training, and mindset challenges. So get ready to take some notes because we're building a damn strong life.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm Bree, and this is the Damn Strong Podcast. And today we have a very, very special guest. This is Paige. She's one of my all-time best friends, but also is a huge inspiration to others. And she actually was a request to be on the podcast. And I was like, little did you know, she's already on the list to have. It's long overdue. You should have been on the podcast ages ago, but I'm just so happy that you're finally on and get to share your story. So welcome.
Yay! I'm so excited to be here. Honestly, this is a long time in the coming. We've talked about this so many times.
So many times.
Okay, we'll go on the podcast. Okay, we'll go on the podcast.
Well, and then we're like, we should do it in person. But we're like, wait a second, we do it in person. Our laptops are going to pick up the sound for each other. So we can't do it in person. We need to do it separate. And then we just don't ever think about it when we're separate. And, you know, this whole thing. So why don't you go ahead and just tell everyone what you do? Start off with what you do and then we'll get into your history. So what do you currently do now as far as fitness, health, that whole space?
Yeah, so currently I'm in the online space as a fitness coach and content creator. I would say 70% of my time is spent in the online coaching industry, and probably the other 30% is spent in the content creation space, whether that be creating gym content on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. But yeah, majority of my time is spent with online clients doing nutrition programming, fitness programming, one-on-one, and group training.
Nice. So tell everyone how you got started. We're going to get to your history of just like your own fitness journey, but why don't you tell everyone how you got started in online coaching? So, I mean, I feel like both of our stories are kind of pandemic-y where it started, but go ahead and just wherever you feel is natural to start there and just kind of tell everyone how you got into the online space of coaching.
Of course. So to start off, I've always been someone who's been interested in working out and a healthy lifestyle, as someone who played competitive sport, which I'll get into when I talk about more about my fitness story. My whole life, I've always been interested in it. I've always had a coach myself, whether it been a basketball coach, a swimming coach, a personal trainer. I've been in that coach-client relationship my entire life, essentially. And then when the pandemic happened, I had just graduated from my undergrad in human kinetics and was currently doing my master's in human kinetics. And my goal at the time was to be a professor within the sport industry. So more so related to gender in sport, not more so the biomechanics side of things. But that was the goal. And I was finishing my master's. I was writing my thesis. Everything in the world shut down. I had already went through a weight loss journey at the time, and I was working out. I was no longer working with a coach. I was just kind of doing it on my own. I had my personal training certificate. I had done some in-person stuff at the school, but never made it full time. And I was like, okay, there's literally nothing else to do at this time other than do my thesis and sit home. So actually, one of my good friends was like, why don't you just start posting your workouts online? And so many people were saying oh, how are you working out? The gyms are closed. What are you doing? And everyone's wondering what to do in this at home space. And I'm currently doing at home workouts. I'm moving my kitchen dining room table and my chairs.
Yeah.
Do these workouts. So I just started recording them. And from there, I was kind of just doing the creation of content at first, not really coaching. Honestly, it was when I met you and you're like, what are you doing? Start doing coaching.
Yeah.
So I did start with what I would call challenges, if you will, at the time, whether it been one was called Fresh Start Fitness. So it was in January and it started the year. It was a 6-week challenge that was run through Instagram, just from honestly me just posting my online workouts. And then from there, I continued doing more challenges, which I've kind of kept and switched to group training, less challenge focused, but kind of the same thing. And then I started taking on one-on-one clients. And from there, I've just kind of continued to grow both my one-on-one clientele and also my group training or challenges.
Yeah. I feel like we started one-on-one kind of the same time. We kind of walked through okay, how are we going to set this up? How are we going to do this? What is communication with our clients look like? We kind of both did that and built it kind of together, just kind of bouncing ideas off each other of what we wanted to look like. So yeah. I feel like we kind of roughly started at the same time, right?
Yeah. I think that you technically went live a little bit sooner because you were doing the part-time while you were still working.
Yeah, true.
Your corporate job, but then I think by the time you had went full time is when by the time I had launched. So those 2 months, I think.
Yeah, right about the same time.
Yeah,
So
around the same time. Yeah.
yeah. So go ahead and now let's get into your journey. And I want you to give the long version. Like if you think of a detail and you're like, oh, I don't want to, it's going to take to go through those details because I think I know your journey is super, super inspirational. It's going to relate to others. So wherever you feel like is best to start, you can start from infancy, you can start in college, wherever, but I want you to give the long version of like your journey in fitness, weight loss, all of that stuff.
I guess it just makes the most sense to go back to kind of my roots and like where I started and what fitness was originally taught to me, how that behavior was taught growing up. So essentially, growing up, I was that child who was registered in literally every single sport under the sun. I played baseball, I did dance, I did basketball, I did soccer, I did like literally every sport you name. I did horseback riding, I did singing, like every single thing I could possibly do in terms of a hobby. My parents had me do, and bless their soul for that. They gave me the opportunity to do that. However, I think through that, this obsession over fitness and performance like became ingrained over time. I really didn't realize it at the time, but looking back, I'm really able to identify it. So, but between ages, let's call it 4 and 12, I was not a specialized child in sport. I was like kind of a participant who did everything. There was really nothing I really focused on. Like, yes, I loved basketball most, but I was someone who did kind of everything. And then around age 12, I think you're kind of forced with this decision to, if you're looking to play post-secondary, if you're looking to play at college, then if you don't specialize, you're going to fall behind. So at age 12, I started doing basketball all 12 months of the year instead of just playing regular season. So I'd play summer league and I would also play winter league. And then in spring, I would do spring training. And in fall, I would do recovery. Like it was constantly basketball all the time. And in combination with that, I was also doing track and field and I was also doing
Oh my
swimming. So
gosh.
I was doing, and I was doing baseball as well. Like I was just doing a
I don't
lot.
think I knew you did that many sports. I just knew basketball was your thing, but I don't think I realized that you did so many activities.
Yeah, I
So,
did. Like there was not a night or a morning that went by that I wasn't in some sort of registered sport. And I loved that. I needed that as a child. I was not the kid who could be sitting at home bored. Like I know I would
yeah.
have gotten into trouble. So I think it's a good thing that I was registered in these things. But unfortunately, what happened through this was this obsession over performance.
Mhm.
Um, if you really think about it and you break it down, like at that time at a young age, I was eating to perform. I was training to perform. So I had no idea what a lifestyle looked like without the performance
Mm.
aspect attached
Yeah.
to it. I think that only got reconfirmed over time because at 12, that process just started. But by age 17, when I was going off to college, I was playing a sport and also being paid to be there and my school being paid for to be there. So I really had to perform. So that means I really had to eat healthy. That means we had trainers, we did the ice baths, we did like we were constantly in that environment.
Yeah.
I think it was like almost this toxic relationship of if I wasn't performing at at my best, then it means I must not have been eating properly. It must not have been training harder. So then I just
That
continue.
something's wrong with you almost in a way. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're
Wow.
also competing for playing time as well. So like I'm not someone who is just okay at not being the best. It's just not who it does not work for me. So I'm
Yeah.
always wanting to be the best and then even better than the best. So
Yeah.
it just continued to reinforce this behavior of like obsession over food, obsession over working out. And I really did not have balance. There was no balance. Like I was training every single day. I was on the road every single weekend, multiple times throughout. The week just driving, we were going with our college to other schools and playing them, and then on the way home doing schoolwork, and there truly was no balance.
Yeah.
And then I had a shoulder injury and I had to stop playing due to an injury essentially, and I got surgery, and I literally lost my entire identity. My entire identity was literally ripped from me. I had no idea who I was anymore because I wasn't at that time. I was always getting all these compliments and all these, like everyone was always giving me words of affirmation, which is part of my love language. It's like, you're so good, you're doing great, you are great out there, you're winning all these awards. And then I no longer had that. Like my sister was the one who was always praised for her academics. And like not saying wasn't good at academics, it just wasn't my thing.
Yeah.
Sports were my thing. So when I no longer had that, I literally had nothing. I felt it wasn't true at the time. I had many other things going in my life, but it was that ripped away from me all at once. So I completely went the total opposite way. I was like, no one's going to tell me to work out. Perfect. I'm doing literally negative 1,000. I'm doing nothing. No
Yeah.
one's telling me to eat healthy. Perfect. I'm
And
going on a ramp.
when was this? So you had the shoulder injury, so people can keep kind of timeline.
So my shoulder injury was 2017, the end of
Okay.
2017. So
Okay.
from the end of 2017 till the
And you were in
beginning.
college at this time, correct?
Yes, correct.
Okay. So this was you were playing college ball. I don't think people realize like you played college. You were a college athlete playing basketball. Yes. Got the shoulder injury in college when, like you just said previously, since I don't know if you call it in Canada, but like middle school for us, like I don't know, 12-ish years old. That was your entire identity. And then you not only did that, you were so successful and you were so good that you went to college ball and then, like you said, had the shoulder injury.
100%. And at the time, a lot of times what happens is you go to college and you move away from what your parents taught you and you learn what how you want to set up your routines, how you want to set up working out. I didn't even do that. I went from my parents telling me or teaching me to my coach and my school teaching me. So there was still no time for me to actually make the choice. Like, yes, I was making the choice to play, but I didn't make the choice to work out. I didn't make the choice to practice. Like those times were set for me. It was like, show up to your 5 a.m. practice and weight training session after you're not going to play this weekend. So that choice wasn't really there. So when I had the injury, it was devastating and I lost my entire identity. But I also felt like my way of gaining control back was to choose to do nothing rather than to do. I didn't know how to work out and I didn't know how to eat healthy if there was no performance attached to it. I'm like, what's the point? Literally, what's the point? There's no point in working out if I don't have to, if I don't see the reward of being able to win a game or get more playing time or whatever that looks like. So that's kind of where that fell off. I got shoulder surgery. That recovery was literally horrendous. I had to be in a sling. Like I was living back at my parents', which I hadn't lived at my parents' for like 2 years. Like that was just a big adjustment. And then after I recovered from that, I could have had the opportunity to go work out and to continue that lifestyle, but I totally neglected it. Like I did not work out literally once, like not once. I didn't even have a gym membership at the time. Like I went from literally being personally trained daily to not even having a gym membership. It just shows you how out of routine I became with it and how extreme I went. So after my shoulder surgery until January of 2018. This is when January of 2018, well, fast forward, is when I went through day one of my fitness journey. So there's about a year and a half here where I did totally nothing. And during that time, there was many times that came up and I'm like, oh, I felt this guilt. I didn't feel confident in myself. I had lost myself. I got into partying more and drinking and like totally away from this healthy lifestyle that I was once living. And there was many times that it would come up and I'm like, oh, I should do this. And then I would not. I would maybe do it for a day. And then most times I wouldn't even do it for a day. I would just think about doing it. And the thought of doing it before I'd actually even action day one, I'm like, nope, never mind. Nope, never mind. I'm too busy. I'm in school. I don't have enough money. I have a toxic relationship with working out. I shouldn't have to tell myself what I can eat or can't eat. Like I just totally was convincing myself and self-sabotaging myself. And during that time, I ended up gaining 50 pounds.
Yeah.
What at the end of my 1 year weight loss journey was what I weighed at the beginning of this entire weight gain journey. So it was like I had gained 50 pounds and then I had lost 50 pounds. So it's like you can kind of see where I was in that timeline. So then it came to let's call it December of 2017. And at this time I had broken my foot, like crazy story had happened. I whatever, broken my foot, nothing to do with working out. And I was sitting with my friends who I had told multiple times, like, oh, I'm going to start next week. I'm going to start Monday. I'm going to start. And I told them multiple times and they had worked with me at Lululemon and I had all the
This is right before, because you're saying day one of your journey was January 2018. So this is, you're talking about basically what kind of just.
What sparked
what
this?
Switch?
Like,
what's the spark?
Yes.
Okay, got it.
So
you're saying you had friends at Lululemon.
Yes, I had friends at Lululemon. And at Lululemon, they gave us money per month. Like, let's call it $300 a month. You could sign up for a gym membership. You could do workout classes. Like, I had the resources there. Yeah. Like, my excuse of being a student and not being able to afford it sucked because it wasn't true. Yeah. And they were doing it. Like, they were living this healthy lifestyle. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do it. I can't do it. I can't do it. So it came, we were sitting, I was supposed to get my boot off like the next day. Like that, this is how the timeline was. And it was like right before Christmas time in December of 2017. And I was like, I will not, I'm not gonna, or I'm gonna do it tomorrow. I'm gonna do it tomorrow. I'm gonna do it tomorrow. And I told them 100 times. And they literally said, Paige, you're not going to do it. You've literally said this 100 times. And I'm sick and tired of you saying it. Like they gave me the toughest love, and James's jaw, like who never gives me tough love, literally shot to the floor. He was like, ah! And I literally was like, okay, well then bet. So I literally went back to the doctor. I ended up having to leave the boot on for a couple more weeks longer.
Right.
And literally the day I got my boot off, in that 2 weeks, one of my good friends was working with an online coach. I reached out to him. I booked a call. I was like, I have to financially commit to something or I am never going to do it. And they're telling me I'm not doing it means I must have made this excuse one too many times. So I'm not doing it. So I got my boot off. In the process, I had already signed up with an online coach, and I literally started in that process too. I am an extremist. So I went completely vegan.
Yeah.
I was like, if I'm going to do it,
if I'm going to do it, go big or go home.
Literally.
Totally.
I don't eat dairy. I'm anaphylactic to dairy. So that was already something I wasn't eating.
Yeah.
Red meats were literally digestively not working for me. The doctor had told me many times, like, try this, try it, try an elimination diet, like see if this is the trigger. And I would just refuse to do it because I wanted to eat hot dogs and chicken nuggets every single day and not more. So I was like, no. And at that time I'm like, okay, if I'm doing it, I'm going to fully give it my best effort, not just to lose weight, but to actually feel healthy, because I had not felt healthy. I don't even know if when I was playing, I felt healthy, to be honest, because it was obsession the other way. I had no balance. Which I'm sure we'll jump into more about balance, but
for sure,
I had zero balance. It was like the first time in my life I felt healthy, because I felt like it was something I could actually be a lifestyle and not just for this end goal of like winning a game, winning the championship, winning an MVP, playing a sport, having my parents. I felt guilty, like my parents are spending all this money, so I better be the best one on the court. Like there was so much that was going on subconsciously that I didn't even realize was the reason why I went the total opposite extreme. So January 19th, 2018 was day one of my journey. In 52 weeks, I lost 50 pounds. And I actually didn't work with my coach the entire 12 months. I only worked with him for 7 months. Realistically, I probably needed him for about 5 months, but that last 2 months I didn't trust myself to have the confidence. I didn't want to go down the rabbit hole of, jumping right back into old habits. So I needed to really make sure I could do it on my own.
You need him as almost a security blanket. Just be like, okay, I can go on my own, but like, I just need you here just in case, like, what I'm thinking isn't
100%.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So that's kind of the story in terms of that. And then after I lost the 50 pounds, I stopped working with him, and I kind of relearned some things on my own. There were some things that I was doing that weren't really balanced. For example, one of those things were going completely vegan. Looking back, the only triggers I really had were chicken, red meat, and pork and turkey. Like it wasn't even fish, it wasn't eggs, it wasn't honey, but I didn't know how to be something without being a label of it. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to have meat and I don't eat dairy. So the closest thing to that is vegan. So I'm going to identify with that group of people and go vegan, even though like it wasn't making me feel good, because I loved eggs. I loved eating all these other things that I could eat and made me feel good, but I didn't eat them because I thought like, oh, you wouldn't fit into that group if you cut them out. So after I lost the weight, I then was like, okay, you can eat these things. And it was really, really, really hard mindset wise for me, because I was like, wow, I associated all these foods like fish, for example, with how I looked 50 pounds heavier. So introducing that again was so scary for me, because I hadn't eaten that since I had been unhealthy. So it was almost like this thing I had to break down. I'm like, no, Paige, you're not going to gain 50 pounds overnight because you ate fish. That wasn't the problem. I knew that, but it was easier for me just to avoid it and not have to relearn moderation of that food than to be able to actually introduce it into a healthy lifestyle again. So that's something I learned. I learned actual balance of my workouts. Like, bless my coach's soul, he helped me out so much, but there were some things that just didn't align with how I view things. Like, for example, if I went over my calories, there was a consequence of like cardio attached to it. And then that became something I did all the time. Like if I went out and had drinks, even though I stayed within calories,
Yeah.
I associated the drinks as bad. Well, then I was doing sprints the next day at the gym. So
Yeah.
having to break those things that actually were a little bit toxic in the way I took them, and like I know the way he had the program set up was all of love, but for me, it became that obsession, no, that very much obsessioned behavior again. So I
Yeah.
had to break down those things like excessive cardio. I would do 2 workouts. I would literally be like, I'm doing 2 a day today. So I would do arms in the morning and legs at night. Like that is literally that's crazy
Yeah.
behavior. Like you're not going in there and actually having a quality workout. Like you're just
Right.
doing it for quantity. So
Yeah.
I learned like quality over quantity and what that meant in food and in working out and in rest days and all those things. And even since then, like I know you've helped me through this too. Like I used to be someone who like worked out 6 days a week. And I
Yeah.
worked out 5. Now I do like 5 to 4 workouts a day. Like this is literally crazy for me as
A
somebody.
week. 5 to 4. Sorry, you said a day. So I'm just clarifying in case anyone for a second caught that. Yeah.
Yeah,
4 to 5 a week. Yeah.
like, I used to be someone who would do 10,000 steps a day, 2 workouts a day. Like it was crazy. And now I
Yeah.
literally only do, and I feel content doing 4 workouts a week and
Yeah.
just getting a daily step goal. Like it's really crazy to be able to see the growth in that and just see like, even when you're not working in a weight loss journey, there's still work to do in your wellness journey, in your
Yeah.
health journey. Like it's always like, there's literally never an end. And it's not an end. It's not a destination. Like it's
It's just a
crazy.
journey.
It's
Yeah.
a
I looked at a client the other day that was just saying, it's just like, you never just you don't reach the destination of being fit. The actions you are fit. Like if you're someone who you look at me and Paige, you're like, I'm not there yet. It's like, it's not that we're fit and you're not. It's, you are taking actions to be fit, whether that's, trying to watch the quality of your food, eat protein, you work out 2 or 3 times a week. You are fit. Fit is an action that you take every single day, not a destination that you reach.
It's
So yeah,
100%.
totally.
It's
Yeah.
very true. And I think that that was almost the scary part of letting go my coach. So I'm like, well, I lost the weight. Now what? I still don't feel fulfilled. I
Yeah.
still don't feel, I was always looking for more and more and more. And I'm not saying that that part of me is healed. That is something I'm still working on
Yeah.
in every aspect of my life. But it was something that forced me to be content. Like, look where you started and not where you want to go. Like,
Yeah.
stop looking at it the other way around because then you'll never, ever, ever be satisfied. Like, appreciate where you've come, and that almost forced me to do that because I had to set goals that were no longer weight loss goals that you could
Yeah.
see every single day, every single week, like getting excited, being motivated. Like it wasn't motivating for me just to stay the same weight and have to work on a healthy mindset. That wasn't motivating for me. That was
Yeah.
harder. That was harder work for me because I didn't have a reward attached to it. The
Yeah.
reward was like 2 years down the road looking back and being like, wow, that
Yeah.
that was some big changes there.
Yeah. Well, you bring up the great part about mindset, because that's something I talk about on the podcast all the time, is that I really truly think that fitness or like being a healthy person, whatever, is like I get every single time I say it, and I feel like I increase the percentage, but I feel like it's 90% mindset. And then 10% is just like, eat a proper amount of calories, get some protein, get some veggies in, and then be active every single day at the end of the day. And so it's just like, if you're, as everyone's listening right now, everything that Paige just talked about has been mindset, right? She, was an athlete and she lost her identity. That's a mindset thing. She then decided to go the extreme way and was out of balance. That's a mindset thing to work on. Then she, went through this 50-pound weight loss journey and then was like, okay, now I actually have to really challenge myself and work on goal. That's mindset. It's like everything she's talked about through the last, how long have I been recording? 30 minutes has been about mindset. And so I reiterate this because I want people to get it through their damn head that it's like your fitness journey will, I don't know even the word choose, I don't say be solved, but like you will figure out and put the pieces of yourself together so much faster if you really, really take time to work on your mindset, how you view your body, how you view food, how you approach situations, which I think is a good transition into talking about balance. So you mentioned it a lot as we've been talking about balance, and that's something that you talk about a lot. You talk about it so much, so you have it tattooed literally on your body is the word balance. So balance has obviously been a huge part of your journey, and people have heard through your story that like you've been at extremes. And so something that you really had to work on was finding that balance.
100%.
So I don't know if you have it solved yet. Obviously you have insight for sure, but how do you feel like you have found balance? Let's first talk about that. And then I kind of want you to give maybe some tips for other people, and you can combine both those questions, but maybe just start with, how did you start to find balance in your own life?
So I think it started with I first identifying my behavior. So
Yeah.
why was I obsessing over things? Why, like, I didn't even know that I wasn't living a balanced lifestyle. I thought I was.
Yeah.
Like, until you have to believe that you want to see the change, to actually see it for what it is. Like, you can tell me all day, Paige, that's not balanced. Paige, that's not balanced. But if I think it is, I'll never change it. I had to literally realize that the lifestyle I was living was not something I could do long term.
Yeah.
If and I preach that like a long-term strategy equals long-term reward. It equals
Yeah.
long-term progress, results, whatever word you want to use. Short-term strategies can only equal short-term results. And I thought like, oh, I must just be the exception because I've been doing it for how many 4 years and I'm not burnt out.
Yeah.
I was burnt out. I was so burnt out and I didn't even realize what like having energy felt like. Like, I know that sounds crazy, but like it's like almost like like you don't know
You
what
don't know
health feels like until you feel it. Like
100%. Yeah,
if
totally.
you think you feel healthy, you think you feel good. It's like you don't feel rested. Like if you've only ever gotten 5 hours of sleep and you start getting 7 hours, you're like, this is what rested feels like. Like you
Yeah.
don't know until you feel it. So honestly, a big thing for me was like it was interrupting every aspect of my life. Like I was creating no balance nowhere, not with work, not with boundaries in relationships, not with social time. Like even like for example, I had no balance of like, okay, on the weekends I wouldn't like weekends I'm going out and drinking and partying. That's not balance. Like I was an extremist. I was either solely focusing on health or solely letting it go and being like, yeah, it's the weekend, like party it up.
Yeah.
And that was not sustainable. It was making me miserable. It was leading to like more anxiety, which I hadn't experienced.
And how did you recognize all this? Because like you said, when you're in these extremes, you didn't even know you were out of balance. So how did you finally recognize like you had all this extra anxiety, you didn't feel rested? Like how did you recognize those things?
First off, I wasn't hitting goals that I set. So I was setting
Mm,
goals for myself and I wasn't hitting them. I'm like, that bothers me. If I set a
yeah.
goal, like it was bothering me. I couldn't figure it out. Like I couldn't figure out why, or I wasn't motivated. I didn't have the energy. Like it was
Right.
just slowly over time. Also, the relationships that I had with friends and family, they were slowly making comments too of like, are you getting enough rest? Are
Yeah.
you working out too much? Are you And at first I was so offended. I was like, how dare they? It's because they don't work out. They don't live a healthy lifestyle, so they're judging me. Like I was
Mm,
projecting I knew what was going on deep
yeah.
down. I knew it was
Yeah.
going on, but I wasn't ready to accept it yet. And I really think it was my anxiety that forced me to do it. It was like I had no other option. Either I was going to be anxious and miserable all day, every day, tired, exhausted. I was obsessing over like the number on the scale. Like I remember I would wake up every single day, or like every single time I'd walk by a mirror, I'd look at myself. I would
Yeah.
like I there was never a time I was not thinking like, oh, I could be skinnier. Oh, I could be smaller. Oh, I could like every second of the day. It was an obsession.
Yeah.
Because what had happened was what that praisal I got of you're doing great in sport, then it was, oh my gosh, you lost weight. So
Yeah.
then it was reinforced like, oh, great, it's back. Now I have to be skinnier. Like I used to
Yeah.
have to be really good at basketball. Now I just have to be skinnier. That's what it
Yeah,
has.
that's what I'm good at now is being skinny. And then you've been skinny for probably like the time and the comments start to die down. You're like, okay, people are making comments. I need to get more fit or more skinny or more whatever. So people continue to make those comments. Yeah.
100%. So it was
Yeah.
like that was coming in, also creating anxiety because I never felt fulfilled in myself. Like
Yeah.
it doesn't even matter if someone thinks I'm skinny. That doesn't matter if I don't believe it. Like I hate the word skinny. If someone thinks I'm
Yeah.
fit and
Or
healthy,
healthy or whatever. Yeah.
whatever, they think it, but I don't. It literally doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter because they could tell me all day. I have to truly believe it myself. So going back to your balance question, it was almost like a rock bottom situation. I had no other option.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to keep up with school. I wasn't able to keep up with work. I was not able to do all the things I wanted to do. I wasn't hitting the goals that I was. So I'm like, listen, you have to peel back. Like you can't not work. That
Right.
that is actually balance. You're working a balanced shifts. You can't not do that. You can't not like clean around your house. You're doing that. Like you're doing every day. The only things that you're doing that you can pull back on are literally the gym and these excessive steps that you're getting. You have to
Yeah.
do it. So that started slowly over time. And actually, what happened at first was I was like, perfect. I'll not do a weight training day, but I'm going to do a spin class.
Yeah.
So it's like instead of weight training, I was doing spin. So I felt better about myself knowing I wasn't doing a workout, but really that time I was spending at the gym, I was just spinning instead.
It's so funny because you're having this internal conversation. You're like, "Ooh, I'm sneaky. I'm getting away with it." And it's like a child. Like when you watch it, like when my nieces will be like, they're not supposed to go somewhere, like, in a certain part of the house or something like that when we're all together. And they're like, they call me Aunt Banana. So Aunt Banana, like I left something upstairs. I'm like, no, you didn't. You just want to go up there because you're not allowed to go. Like you're trying to pull a quick one. And you do the same thing to yourself, but in your own mind,
That's an
which is
adult.
so funny.
I know, it's crazy. So it was like that over time happened. Then my spin instructor was no longer there. That was kind of a natural thing that happened that forced me to not replace it. Like it was just small things
Yeah.
over time. I stopped tracking for a month, like for the first time ever since I had lost weight, just
Yeah.
tracking. And it made me realize, like, wow, in a month I didn't gain. I knew that was not going to happen, but
Right.
just small things, trusting that, like, I kept telling myself, like, what really stuck with me is like, if you've grown, prove it. If you've grown,
Ooh,
I kept saying that to myself
that's so good.
because I kept saying like, "Oh, I'm healthy. Oh, I've grown. I've grown." Okay, Paige. Well, then it's time to prove
Then
it.
prove it.
You get to the
Yeah.
top. Don't track. Work. Show me that you've shown me, as in
Wow.
like this is a conversation with myself, but show me that you just worked on your hunger cues versus obsessive eating. Show me
Yeah.
that you can just go to the gym with a healthy lifestyle and actually take rest days.
Yeah.
If you've grown, then prove it. And it took me a long time to actually prove it because I actually hadn't grown.
Yeah, yeah. And something that, you talked about, and I obviously know this about you, but you talked about earlier, like your friends were like, Paige, you're not going to do it. And so you basically told yourself, like, you didn't actually accomplish it. Like, prove it. If you actually did it, like, you can't do it. And so your motivation for you is being told you can't do something. You're told you can't do something. Oh, you're going to do it. You know what I mean? It's going
Yeah.
to happen. And so it's almost kind of like, in a way, you told you, and I would say in a healthy way, you
Mhm.
challenge yourself of being like, okay, if you've really grown and you really say you're a healthy person, you have healthy boundaries, let's actually follow through with that. So it's very
Mhm.
interesting. I love what you said, just like prove it. Because
Mhm.
I handle, and I think you same with your clients. I deal with a lot of clients where they don't try, especially when they come from very drastic weight loss. They're scared to go back to that old version of themselves. It's this fear. And so the only way to get through that fear is to slowly prove to yourself and trust the skills that you've learned and actually put those in practice. You know?
100%. And I think that's why your mindset during the weight loss is just as important, if not
Yes.
more important than after, because those behaviors, those during my weight loss journey, I actually did label foods as good and bad. So
Yeah.
then after when I was done, I still did
Yeah.
because you can't just not at that point. You did it and you were rewarded through actually the goal that you set of losing weight that you're like, aha, it must have been because I didn't eat those bad foods.
Yeah.
And then during that time, the mindset of, oh, well, you punished yourself and gave yourself a consequence when you went over your calories. So that must have worked. Like all those, because I was losing weight, that reinforced the toxic mindset that I had at the time.
Yeah.
Mindset, mindset is so important.
If whoever's not watching this, like if Paige just like knocked the glasses off her face with her hand, it was
Oh yeah,
quite
true. I'm
funny.
thinking like if they are
Yeah.
like, yeah, if you don't focus on mindset during the weight loss and you
Yeah.
just say I'll deal with it later, it is so much harder to deal with it later.
Yes.
Like
So
don't
much
avoid it.
harder.
Do not
So much
avoid it.
harder. Yeah. I was literally saying to someone last night that's like, who is struggling with her confidence now. And it's just like, I understand if you lose 30 pounds, you are going to feel a little more confident because your clothes fit better and you can be more able bodied and you can maybe bend down and pick things up like you couldn't before. But like 30 pounds doesn't solve what's between your head. If you're 30 pounds, if you're miserable at 30, 30 pounds up, if you lose the 30 pounds, you're going to be miserable 30 pounds down. And that's what you experience. What you're experiencing 50 pounds up, you had those same experiences, but you were just 50 pounds lighter. And it's like, okay, cool. 52 weeks later, a whole year later, like, yeah, you've lost 50 pounds, but you still have to deal with this mindset stuff that you didn't address while you were losing the,
100%.
the 50 pounds.
Yeah. And I also think for anyone listening who's going through this right now, in January, it will be 6 years. This is the first vacation I'm going on where I have not cut before I'm going. Like,
Yeah.
it didn't happen overnight. Like, I'm still working on the mindset. Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna make me cry thinking about it. But I'm like, I'm still doing it. Like, it's still hard. So I don't want you to think like, oh, a mindset happens in a year, a mindset happens in 6 months. It does not. Like,
Right.
it will forever be something I work on. So if you're like, oh, I've been doing it for 2 years and I'm still struggling, it's been almost 6 for me.
Yeah.
And this is the first time I've checked this one off the box. There's so many
Yeah.
goals that I'm going to set, but like, it's the first time I'm like, Paige, you can go on a vacation and you can be confident
Yeah.
wearing what you're wearing, looking how you are. You don't have to cut for an event.
Every single time that you're going.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every single time.
No, I think
So
that's super powerful. Is that I think people look up to you and say she has it all figured out. Like she lost 50 pounds. Like she knows we see her story. She enjoys the pizza and she has the fruits and she has the vegetables. Like even 6 years later, there's still things that you're going on. And it's never, like we said before, it's never going to end because you're going to go into other versions of yourself. You know what I mean? If one day you have kids, like then there's the mom version of stuff you have to figure out. And then, you raise kids and you're an empty nester. Okay, there's another version of yourself. You're always, again, like we said, there's no destination. It's a constant journey of wanting to improve yourself. And you have to you had to make that choice and be like, and recognize, hey, every time I have an event or I go on these vacations, I always feel this desire to go into a cut. Why? Let me ask that question. And you're like, okay, let's challenge ourselves to not do that and experience that. And you may go on this vacation and you're going to go through a lot of thoughts and everything, but you're going to face those thoughts and you're going to grow. You're going to come out of this vacation even a more better version of yourself because you challenged yourself.
And like even in the saying to myself, like, okay, I'm not going to cut for this vacation. That's the easy part. Setting the goal is the easy part. It's holding yourself accountable to it. There has been a lot of times leading up these 8 weeks since I said that where I could have been cutting, where I'm like, I've noticed myself being like eating a later lunch and I'm like, nope. You got to get back. You have, like, I see what's going on. I see what you're doing. So it's like, just having enough self-awareness to be like, okay, you know yourself better than anyone else will. Why are you doing it? Like, yeah, if you think you're fooling everyone else, what does it matter? It's yourself. You'll never fool yourself. So you might as well just see it for what it is. And if that's like, if you have the goal, then just actually do it. If you want it, you'll do it.
Yeah.
If you want it, you'll do it. Like you will figure out a way, and it might not be the exact way that you thought it would come, but you'll do it. You will figure out a way to do it.
Yeah. I don't know if you're challenging yourself to not go into a cut pre-vacation ties into this. It may have some tie, but you also say a lot. I don't know if you still have it on your page or you did for a long time, but perfection is an illusion. Mm-hmm. And does that either talk about that and what that phrase means to you, and why is that phrase so meaningful to you, and does that play a part in going on the vacation and wanting to cut?
So I think growing up, literally, bless my parents' heart and soul, they are amazing, but I lived in a perfectionist home. My dad is a perfectionist. My mom is a perfectionist. My sister, we are all perfectionists.
Yeah. And
if you actually think about what's perfect, it truly is an illusion, because what's perfect to me is never going to be perfect to you.
Yep.
Is never going to. So I was striving for something that was never, ever going to, perfection doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
It's not even real. It's fake. You made it up in your head. And even when you get to the place that you thought was perfect, if you're a perfectionist, you'll change that destination. You'll change it to the next thing.
Yeah.
So I was in this literal hamster on a wheel, and I would have never stopped ever. And it wasn't just fitness. It was in relationships, friendships, like my work, my house, my cleaning, especially, like everything in my life. Perfectionism is attached to it.
Yeah.
It's like, here it is, here I am. So I came in contact with the phrase like 4 years ago. I saw it. I was with a friend and she was literally like, that right there, those words are literally you. She's like, you need to base your entire being around those words. And I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember at the time being like, what is my saying? What is my, I don't know. I just was like, I was feeling like I wanted something like to describe me, to be motivating and I saw it and I'm like, there it is. Like, that is exactly me. And since then, everything I do, I try to remember that. I try to remind myself of that because going back to the vacation, like I was doing it to be perfect, to be perfect. I was cutting to be perfect, but to who? Why? Like what? Like if I got the feeling of confident when I weighed 8 pounds less, let's say, what was missing with the feeling to what I am 8 pounds? That's a feeling. What is missing? It's a me thing. It's me. So why is that? Like, and I also knew that like, okay, I would cut on vacation. Well, then the next vacation I'd want to be even leaner and
Yeah.
be even leaner and be, that's the perfectionism in me. So being able to stop and be like, this doesn't exist to anybody. Even if I think I'm perfect, nobody else will. So what is the literal point? I'm only
Yeah.
going to become a less perfect version of myself trying. Like I'm gonna die trying, essentially.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm not even gonna hit it
And
anyways.
you,
So
yeah, you'll die trying, you still won't achieve it.
I still
Yeah.
never will achieve it. It's something, it's not even tangible. Like there
Yeah.
are definitely tangible goals, and I love goal setting. I'm all for them. But if your goal is not realistic, like literally SMART goals, like I know it sounds silly, but the like R is literally realistic. Perfection is not realistic. So
Yeah.
do not base any goal around that. And every single goal I ever set in my life was always based around the perfect version of me to
Yeah.
that. I think it also goes back to like I felt like I needed to be perfect for my parents. I felt like I needed to be perfect in school. I felt all those things because I felt everyone else around me was perfect. So it was like it was a me
Mm.
thing. And that just
Yeah.
continued to be reinforced as when I got good at something, they were like, "You're amazing, you're the best, you're the," and it was like, haha, I knew perfection was what I was looking for. Like it
Yeah.
was just a constant
Yeah.
thing that I thought, and then I was rewarded for it. And then I thought the more extreme version and rewarded for it. So it's interesting how your brain works, that if you hit a goal, you can convince yourself anything, any reason of what that goal, the why it happened.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
So it's
totally. So how do you set goals then now? And you could talk about this like even career wise, you could talk about this fitness wise. Maybe fitness is the better route to go. Either way, how this comes to your brain. How do you set goals then without trying to achieve perfection each time? I mean, that's something you're currently working on.
I said it, I'm definitely currently, I think I will work on this the rest of my life. Like it's my vice. I will constantly, every single day, have to work and remind myself of this. It's
Yeah.
just a part of me.
Yeah.
It's who I am. But
And I love that you have that acceptance. You know
yeah,
what I mean? Instead of hating yourself and whatever, you're like, this is just how I'm wired. And that's okay. But what's not okay is that I let how I'm wired take me into a negative
yeah,
place. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
So for me personally, I may set the big goal and then work backwards.
Mm.
That almost grounds me. If
Yeah.
I set the big goal, that's where I really that's where I get into this very toxic mindset of chasing, chasing, chasing.
Yeah.
So if I work backwards and be like, okay, what do I have to do every day to get there? What's my small goal? And maybe it's not even every day. Maybe your small goal is, what do I have to do every month to get there? Like
Yeah.
it's just like if you want to save 10 grand at the end of the year, how much do you have to save a month? How much do you have to save a week? What
Yeah.
does that mean saving a day? It
Yeah.
like when we talk about money, we get it. It
Yeah.
clicks. When we talk about fitness, it never clicks. So
Yeah.
it's like just think about it the same. We need to just think about it the same way,
Yeah.
and it will make more sense. Like if you just think about it in relation to money, and I know you're really good at always relating it to that and giving
Yeah.
examples, it it clicks. It makes sense.
Yeah. Cause I
So
think we all deal with money and finances on a daily basis. And so when you just relay back to money, it clicks for some reason, you
yeah,
know?
it does, and it's
Yeah.
like you can't argue it because
It's
you
data,
can't.
it's numbers.
Yeah, right. It's
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
You can't argue it, but with fitness goal, you're like, I could push it. I could push it. I
You have
could.
feelings that get tied into it. Totally. Yeah. Yeah, totally. No, I was saying to a client the other day, if she's like, she keeps having her goal in her head be when she weighs this much. She's like, I got to get out of it. I was like, you just need to have the 24-hour timeline. You keep having this 6-month timeline, and you can't get to the 6-month timeline without every day in between that. And so it's like, I just every single day, I want you to just focus on the 24-hour timeline. What do I need to do in the next 24 hours to achieve my goals to be successful? It's exactly what you're saying of just, okay, that's totally fine to have an overarching goal and let that be like, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel, but like, what are the steps that you have to do, the actions you have to take? And again, breaking it down even smaller, just daily to
100%.
get there. And then you feel successful because you're like, okay, I have my daily to-dos. I checked them all off. Awesome. You get that little hit of dopamine of like, I was successful, and then move on to the next day. And then a client said to me the other day, and I was like, I've never used this before. She, didn't achieve something one day. And I hate to use the word failure, but I'm just going to say it because people understand. But like, she failed to do something. She's like, oh, well, it's just tomorrow's progress. And I was like, that is the most wonderful mindset to have of when she didn't achieve something one day. She goes, great, that's going to be tomorrow's progress. And so even with the goal setting, like you're saying, of just like, even if you don't on those dailies, you go, okay, I didn't achieve this today. First of all, let's dig into why, what happened, all that. Okay, perfect. I'm put on tomorrow's progress, and I get to check off for tomorrow.
Yeah,
So
100%. That's a
yeah,
really good way to word it. And I think also wrapping in perfectionism, illusion, and balance, like they all kind of go hand in hand.
totally.
And I think what's recently been a huge game changer for me is my entire being ever since I started my weight loss journey only existed in the physical world. Physical health. That is all health was to me. It's mind, it's body, it's spirit. I know that sounds woohoo. It is. It's true though.
Yeah,
And
it's so true.
I was only ever setting physical goals.
Yeah.
So I could, let's say I set a physical goal of in the next 8 weeks losing 8 pounds.
Right.
Okay, what's the mental check here? Can I mentally take that load on? If
Mm-hmm.
it's a no, then that physical goal should not be set.
Right.
Like until I combined and actually realized, like, okay, teeter totter.
Yeah.
Here's a three-way teeter totter: body, mind, soul. Before I was literally like, body thriving, yes. Soul, who is she? Mind, we don't even want to know.
She don't know her, don't need her.
Peter. Yeah, literally, that's exactly how I felt. So I'm like,
Yeah.
until I actually understood the importance of, especially I think mind, because my mind naturally goes to like an OCD / perfection mindset.
Yeah.
If I set a goal, I have to do a mind check. I have to. Does this support my mindset? If it does not, then it doesn't mean it's not for me, but it's just not for me right now.
Yeah.
Like, for example, the cutting for the vacation.
Yeah.
Physically, I could have done it. I
Yeah.
could have done it. Mentally, I could have not. Like
Yeah.
it would have, I could have, but it wouldn't have been a positive.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Is
Absolutely.
basically what you came down to. Like you could do it. And you're one of those people, you like, I'm going to tell, you know, if anyone tells you you can't do something, you're telling yourself like, oh, I can't do this. Like bet, like I will prove you wrong. You can do anything you set your mind to, but at what consequence, sacrifice, like negative thing. Yeah. At what sacrifice? And it'd be sacrificing your mentally. You wouldn't be able to improve yourself health wise mentally had you had not decided to challenge yourself.
And I think because everyone can call you out on your physical health, like you're not going to be healthy long term. You're not going to be able to sit on the toilet because we can see it.
Right.
No one can call you out on your mental health.
Yeah.
Because they can't see it.
Yeah.
Like, so that was something I always was like, well, no one can see that I'm letting it slip, so I won't be called out on it, and I won't get praised for my mental health. I'll only get praised for my physical health. So screw working on her. I'm working on my physical body. Like it's just like so much you become more aware of as you break down like why, how did this happen? What didn't I like? What did I like? And analyzing like your behaviors, your thoughts, all those patterns to say, okay, what's not working? What is working? And how can I level up again? And then again and again and again over time.
Yeah. So I have two more points I want to go through and then we'll kind of wrap things up here. So one that just kind of came to mind is, you know, I just thought back to your cut and I was like, you know, she's right. Like no one is going to doesn't see what's going between her ears, going on between your ears, your mind. And so you could have cut for this vacation and then you'd post your vacation photos and then you've gotten that praise online of, oh my gosh, Paige, you look so, which by the way, you're still going to get those comments, like even when you don't cut, you know what I mean? But you're going to get those and it's going to affirm like, oh, I'm so glad I did this cut, that I didn't work on my mindset. How do you deal with words being so affirming for you and being on social media?
I think I heard this, I was meeting up with a friend not that long ago and she said, if somebody is telling, I forget how she worded it, but essentially like, who are you, whose words are mattering to you? Why?
Yeah.
Like if it's James, if it's you, if it's Kendall, sure, if it's my parents, but these random people online, why does it matter?
Yeah.
Like if you don't even know them, you don't even live their life, you don't know
they don't know you.
You don't know me.
Yeah.
What does it matter? Like you really have to figure out like why is that playing an important role? Like, and that's a difficult question. It's an uncomfortable question to ask yourself because it means that you have to look in the mirror and say, "Ooh, I don't like that about myself." Like, why is that? So I think like that's something you first have to look at. Sorry, what was the second part of your question?
What was, I guess, again, how do you deal with that being like on social media? And I think you pretty much, I feel like you answered it of just like challenging those people who are making whatever the comments are and being like, you know, what do I believe about myself? Why does it matter what they believe? So it's really the one part. The second point that I wanted to go through is, you know, kind of the last question here that, you know, I'd given to you is just like, if you could go back and give, you know, whether it's January 2018 Paige or middle school Paige, like what piece of advice would you give yourself to help you have been maybe more successful, or maybe not more successful, that's the wrong word to use, but like that you needed at that time of whatever version of yourself you go back to?
I think everyone's always like, or like, you know how you ask yourself, like, when you make it, what will happen? What will be it when you make it?
Yeah.
For me, what I've recently realized is that I literally picture like 6-year-old Paige reaching her hand up to me and me grabbing it and her wanting to be my best friend. Like
Yeah.
her knowing every thought that's in my head, like not just her seeing this external social media page, like
Yeah.
no, her seeing me, her being able to hear my thoughts, her being able to see my actions, see all the things that I try to cover up that people don't see. If she wants to be me and she wants to be, and she's proud of me and she wants to hang out with me and she's excited, it's like, there it is. Like, do it for her. Like, I remember that version of me who felt uncomfortable, never thought she was good enough, like always compared herself, strive for perfection. Like, and now to be able to be like, no, those, I'm still growing and I got a lot of growth to do. But to see, like, I can openly say, like, I'm not perfect. I need to work on these things. Like, she'd be so proud because she wouldn't have even told my mom that. She wouldn't have wanted to know that, let alone strangers online. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
I think it's a big thing for me is like, do it for your younger self. And we hear it all the time. But like, for me, that means like, what did that person need you to be?
Yeah.
For them, like for you, not for anyone else. Like not for who your dad needed you to be for him to heal, who your sister needed to be for him. No, for you. And like the second I became more aligned with like that younger version of me, it like I was able to be like, oh, I feel uncomfortable doing this and I feel great doing this. So letting go of the uncomfortable, moving through the comfortable.
Yeah.
So I think that's
that makes complete sense. I love that. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I love that we finally got you on. We'll have to do a part 2 here soon. Why don't you just let everyone know like where they can find you on Instagram, kind of like, talk about your group training, your one-on-one, all that. And then we'll just kind of wrap up and say goodbye.
Yes. So you can find me on social media at Paige Johnston with a T _fit on TikTok, Instagram, or YouTube. Like I said, I had mentioned before, I do group training and one-on-one. So if something resonated with me today, you can find me there. I'm always in my DMs. So whether you have a question, a comment, you want to chat about something I talked about today, or you feel like you can relate, like I love those conversations. So come chat. I'd love to hear more about your story and thankful for you listening about mine.
Yeah. And I'll make sure I link everything obviously in the show notes as well. But thank you so much for being a guest on my podcast. And as always, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please screenshot it, post it to your stories, tag Paige and I. And like she said, shoot us a DM, let us know what you really took away from this episode, what part of Paige's story that really resonated with you. And I will catch you guys all in the next one. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Damn Strong Podcast. Show me some love by leaving a review and sharing a screenshot of this episode on your Instagram stories. Until next time, stay strong.